We are live, coming here with a brand new Stir the Pod podcast. I'm your host, Trevor, and tonight we are joined by Andy. Andy, how you doing tonight?
What up, what up?
And we are also joined by Alex. Alex, how you doing tonight?
Yo, yo, yo.
And we are here with the first, would we say this is season 2 of Mount Rushmore season for Stir the Pod. I know I'm very excited. Andy's very excited. I think this is his first full season doing Mount Rushmore now with us. I think he was on for a few Mount Rushmores, but he will be with us throughout the entire Mount Rushmore season till season 37. But Alex is back. I'm back. So we're here to go through good old Mount Rushmore season. So with that being said, Alex, do you just want to give kind of a basic format of what is a Mount Rushmore and kind of, the history of why we do it and everything like that?
Yeah, so I would guess this is maybe our 8th Mount Rushmore that we've done in Stir the Pod / BMFE history. I think the other ones we would kind of do randomly either during season or between. This one's obviously between. The concept is very simple. There's a category. This one's a little different, but we'll get into that in a sec. But there's a category, and we all get usually it's 4 picks for something, 4 picks to make your Mount Rushmore, and then we post the graphic. You guys tweet. You answer our poll of who you think had the best Mount Rushmore, and then one of us is going to win. I'm trying to think of some of my favorite ones that we've done. It's like we did Mount Rushmore of seasons, Mount Rushmore of elimination rounds, like things we love about the challenge, just like categories like that. And I don't know about you guys.
Worst competitors was a classic one.
Worst competitors was funny.
Relationships was pretty good.
I think that was the most recent one we've done was relationships, and it's just a great thing where we don't have to stick to a 90-minute episode and talk about what's in that. We can just talk about random challenge shit.
Absolutely. So with that being said, I say we just dive right into this Mount Rushmore. And this Mount Rushmore, we're going to change it up a little bit. We're going to do a good old kind of like a 1-by-1 of each thing. So each of us, we're going to go in order of Andy, Trevor, Alex. Is that fine order? Or how about this? We'll go Andy, Trevor, Alex for pick. So Andy, you'll have the first pick. You can choose whatever spot you want. So if you want to go first, you can go first. If you want to go second, you can go second. If you want to go third, you go third. Easy enough. So what we're going to do is Andy's going to have the chance. He's going to have 4 picks tonight. And he's got to pick a moment, a men's challenger, a women's challenger, and a challenge season. So we're going to try to come up with the best list possible between this. So obviously people are going to steal each other's stuff. It's going to get off the rails, embrace debate. But yeah, so with that being said, Andy, what pick, because you're brand new at this, what pick would you like?
I would like to go second.
Number 2. All right. Andy is taking this spot. And Alex, I'll actually let you go next. What spot would you like?
So first or third overall?
Correct.
I'll take number 1.
All righty. So Alex is number 1, and that's updating, correct? You guys see those changes?
Yeah. Yep. And just so everyone knows who the whole concept is, a snake draft, meaning now that I'm picking first, that means I'm going to go last in the second round. And we have 4 subcategories. You don't have to draft them in any order. You just have to fill out your roster with all 4, right?
Correct.
Okay. So it's like a fantasy football draft. You can get a quarterback whenever you want, but you got to have one. So.
Yep. So to start off the good old 2021 Mount Rushmore season, we have Alex Burge on the clock.
All right. So my first overall pick, when I was between first and third, I wanted to go first just to make sure I got this moment. I am going to go moment. I think some of the other categories are deeper, so I got to take this moment while I can because it just won't get around to me. I'm going with bananas, taking in the money and run. I've been on record as saying not only is this the greatest moment in challenge history, this is the greatest moment in TV history and arguably one of the top 10 moments of mankind overall, just of any moment ever. I love this one. This one also has a special place in my heart. Trevor knows that when this episode happened, I was literally watching it at 4 a.m. overseas in Ireland, FaceTiming Trevor to watch it live, flew back, watched the reunion right away when I got home. It was just one of those moments where, I mean, I don't know about you guys, and obviously I think as we go through this, we're not going to spoil any future picks, so you guys can give your input on this one. I mean, this is just an easy number one for me. It was an all-time moment. I was between this and maybe one or two other moments, but I just love how big of a thing this was for reality TV.
Oh, it was absolutely massive. And like Alex said, I remember vividly when you were coming back from Ireland, and I literally had a setup like this to literally turn my, I think it was my iPhone 6 or something at the time. I don't even know what it was. Flipped around, and yeah, it was like 4 a.m. in Ireland. You were watching it, which was just awesome. But before we continue on with the next pick and even talking more about this, I've got to give a shout out to Boogie Brown back in the chat. Love to see him back at it. And hopefully, next time we go live, maybe you can join us, Boogie. We'd love to see people join us live this summer, especially. So anything else we should talk about? I mean, obviously, this is one of the greatest challenge moments of all time. Andy, you have anything to say about it?
I mean, it's clear number one. It's a great pick. You think about what we've done. We've put a man on the moon. We've built skyscrapers high into the sky. Technology is light years ahead of where people thought it would be, besides flying cars, maybe. But Bananas taking the money and run. I mean, it's all in the same conversation.
Absolutely.
It was one of the biggest, on your first time watching it, of just pure shock moments. Like you listen to all the interviews and stuff, like it would take somebody like Bananas to do it. So after the fact, you're like, I'm not surprised by it, but at the same time, it was somehow still a super surprising thing. And then just like the scenery of it, all of them like alone on the mountain. She gets down to her knees. He gives that big speech. He's done 12 challenges since then. I mean, I'm just a huge fan of the moment.
He pats her on the back. You get to Sarah, first place, $0.
It was one of the first times I think I've ever seen Tej just disgusted. Like he was just like, wait, did that really just happen? Like he was just like, wow, I didn't think he would actually do it. I mean, classic moment. All right, so moving on. Andy, first pick. What are you taking?
So this was a tough one, and this was one of the reasons I didn't want to go first, because I did think that was a clear number one pick. So I wanted to have a little toss-up. I've got a couple things going in my mind, but I think I've got to go a moment where my favorite challenger, and we'll get into that, literally picked up my least favorite character on his back and carried him up a mountain in a final. Kenny carrying Wes, Rivals won. I mean, that was just obviously it didn't last that long, but it was one of those where Wes is just acting this big, bad, macho guy all season, and Kenny was struggling a bit. And then Wes, as the genius that he is, puts rocks in his socks, and that ends up making him not be able to walk. And then Kenny says, well, do you want me to just carry you? And then, of course, Wes is like, well, yeah, if you think you can. So then Kenny's just like, all right, screw it. Hop on. It was literally like Diddy Kong hopping on Donkey Kong's back and going up the mountain. I mean, that's just that moment will never get old for me.
It was kind of funny because me and Alex were talking. We were actually on before Andy, and we were trying to think of what Andy would pick. And let me tell you, we knew this was coming. We literally called this. We didn't know how early you were going to go for it, but I mean,
I'm an idiot. I forgot that you can pick in any random order. God, yeah. I was still stuck on moments. God.
Yeah, I was a little surprised by that, so I'll take my sweet ass time picking my
rookie mistake. Rookie mistake, but I still like my pick.
Oh, it's a great moment, absolutely.
Yeah, we did just give Trevor a lot of leverage into being able to cover out the rest of his roster there. One thing that I think helps this moment a lot is how in every challenge season their names are like printed on the ass of their shorts. So like that picture, you can literally see the guy standing up is Kenny, And then I think you can even tell with Wes slung over his shoulders, you can see WES right on his ass, and just, it's all right there. Great moment.
Oh, I mean, it's one of those moments like, I don't know how long he actually carried him. It could have been like 10 feet. Like, they show the iconic him lifting him up and stuff. But no matter how far it was just so like, oh my God, like, you got to be kidding me moments of the show. Just an awesome moment for the challenge.
Yeah, and I don't know. I was just gonna say, I don't know if you guys know this because you haven't been keeping up with All Stars. But every once in a while, I feel like the whole Kenny West GIF meme, whatever, makes its round through Twitter, whether it's like Wes is doing something on the challenge or what. But it did make its round just last week because Darrell did the same exact fireman carry with Ruthie in the final. So that happened in the final last episode with Darrell and Ruthie. So because of that, people are saying like, all the flashbacks to Kenny and Wes. So that it's one of those things that it never gets old.
Absolutely.
All right,
so
Trev.
Anything else? I'm good to go.
I'm good.
Mm-hmm.
All right. God, well, I'm keeping my moments, obviously. I mean, I think there's a clear moment that I'm going to take at the last pick, which is could be huge for Trev. So now's an interesting time for me. I don't know what to attack first. I think I'm going to start out with the challenge season, and I know this would get taken. And I personally think this is the best season of the challenge. I think it had a little bit of everything. Believe it or not, there was only 13 episodes on the season. There was 3 reunion type shows specials of the season, so a total of 16. So perfect amount, 13 episodes, perfect amount. It happened in the beginning of the year. So listen to these dates: January 6th to March 24th. I mean, that is like perfect time. Like you.
Wow.
So perfect time there. They were in Panama and in Norway. And let me tell you, this was one of the seasons that got me so into the challenge, and that is Battle of the X's 2 as my season. And the reason why I'm choosing that is it literally had everything. The cast itself, I mean, Leroy, Jordan, Bananas, Wes, Zach, my boy, Johnny Riley, CT was in it for a little bit. John Jacobs, who is that? So men's was yeah, I know. You had Sarah, Teresa, Jenna, Nani, Naya, Joanna, classic, Avery, Jemmy, Jess. The cast list itself is absolutely stacked. It was the only time this seat ever in the challenge that they played the Redemption House perfectly. It was behind the scenes. It was on the web app. It wasn't web app. It was on just online, MTV, whatever it's called, the website or whatever. And it was just perfect. It was a perfect game. When Bananas came back, was the whole flip with the house there. It was an awesome season. And that twist, as much as it hurts Bananas, that move that Sarah made the Bananas take the money and run happen. So without Battle of the X's 2, that moment does not happen. And I think that is a massive part of why it's one of the greatest seasons, if not the greatest season of all time.
Verbal meme there, Trev, on top of that. Sarah is D Wade throwing the ball up to LeBron. Bananas is LeBron. D Wade's right under the basket.
God. So dunking on himself. Yeah, absolutely. Yes. So let me type that in. Alex, what do you have to say about that?
X's 2 has always been my number 1 season. I feel like it's easily a top tier season, however you want to rank those top few. Just spot on with everything you said. Great cast, great format. And I feel like I always think, we talk about how well the challenge does from season to season. And I just still feel like nothing since X's 2 has topped it. Like there's been good moments, including the take the money and run, including a few other moments and seasons. But I feel like there was a good run there of about 5-6 heavy hitter seasons, and we'll probably cover some later, all in a row. And I feel like X's 2 is the last one because obviously Bloodline is right after it. Terrible season. So I feel like this was kind of the last of that prime time stretch. So I love that pick. I love X's 2. I'm just a little surprised though because I thought, Trev, you were always a bigger free agents guy.
So I am. I think shout out to Duffy finally making it. But I do like that season a lot. The issue is if you're looking at the full season comparison head to head, X's 2 had everything. Free agents, there is a middle part of that season. I would say about episodes 5, 6, 7, 8. Oh, sounds familiar. That kind of drops off. The only thing that saves it during that episode is the Jordan when he flips the cards over, which is a great episode and stuff. But that was it's very similar to what was it, Fresh Meat 2, where it was Kenny and Wes banging it out. But as soon as Wes exited the house, that's when the game kind of slowed down. That's kind of the vibe I got with free agents to a sense.
Yeah.
I felt like you were always on your toes in X's 2. Like, oh, you think Bananas is out, and 2 episodes later he's back. And it screws up everything in the house. And still, I mean, you had Jordan going into an elimination against Jordan and Sarah going in against Zach. Like, that's a hell of an elimination. And just for them, Zach to go against Bananas in the next round. So that's why I just think overall that is a better season.
Because I feel like you said it was 13 episodes?
Yeah, it's the perfect amount.
Yeah, and I feel like the last 4 or 5 of that was around when Bananas came back, so there was a ton of, dramatic stuff going on there. The first few episodes where I think were kind of Bananas and Wes, tickling each other's ball sacks. And then in the middle there, you still had good teams like, Johnny and Avery going into elimination. All the while, Bananas was still hanging around.
Absolutely, and they didn't know. That was the best part. And they didn't do it like Dirty 30 where there's like 10 redemption houses. They did only 1 redemption house. It was short and sweet. And it was awesome. And best part was it was behind the scenes too. Like you had to watch it on something else, which, some people didn't like. I liked it personally because, you could watch it a different day and you didn't get spoiled by it either. So you could go tune in 3 days after the episode and watch it. And they didn't tell you until, obviously saw Bananas and Nani run out. So that season to me is the most complete challenge season to date.
Great pick.
Yep.
I like that, Trev.
My second pick.
Going back through the snake now.
Yes. I really don't know what to take. I feel like I have to take. I really want to take one person, but I might risk it to see if they swing back around. So I'm going to go with the greatest challenger of all time, and that's Johnny Bananas. I think if that pick is still there, I have to take it. I mean, where do I even begin with this guy? I mean, 7-time champ, selling T-shirts for $77.77. I mean, the dude has 62 daily wins, $1.1 million. He won a spinoff. He literally used the Make-A-Wish kid to get out of elimination. He is the ultimate challenge person. I mean, he literally has a show. He literally has a new show because of it. He became popular on the challenge. Now he's on NBC. And when you think of challenge poster boys, he is number one. Love him or hate him, he is number one. And you got to love him or you got to hate him. And that's why he's awesome. So, any statements on that?
I mean, I feel like this pick, more than maybe anything else we could say for the whole Mount Rushmore, you almost need no explanation. Like, it speaks for itself. And we honestly, just thinking about future Mount Rushmores here, we probably could do one of Bananas. Like best Bananas seasons, best Bananas elimination wins, partners. Like the dude's.
Has he been on a Legends tour?
Yes, he was the first one.
Yeah, like 4 years ago.
God, we might have to do he's won like 2 titles since then, so we might have to redo it. Seeing some comments in the chat, and I think we'll definitely hit into it. I would be very shocked if CT slides. So we'll bring up the CT and Bananas argument once someone picks CT. But personally, I think Bananas is more of the challenge poster boy and why he is he is just the GOAT. 7-time champ. He's just like CT. He won when he was old. He's retired on top. Yes, the only downside you can say is his elimination record's the only thing you can knock on him. That's the only thing I feel like you can go against him. And, trying to hook up with all the rookies or whatever, a la Morgan, a la Nani, a la everyone. Camilla. So
See, but that's the difference there, Trev. Wes tries to rally them up just for the votes.
Oh yeah.
Bananas gets in there and just has fun. That's why he's the GOAT.
And another thing, correct me if I'm wrong, Alex, is Bananas the only person to win the challenge in like every single format? Guy partners, team partners, guy-girl partners, solo. Has he won every single way possible?
I think so.
Yeah,
I think, and in 3 different decades, I think, because Total Madness was
CT?
CT didn't win him with the. Oh, I guess he probably did it too. Like, team-wise,
team was what he's missing.
No, team he got it with. Didn't he get it in? Wasn't he part
with Jordan in War of the Worlds too?
Yeah. I couldn't think of the season. Yeah.
So then he's got it because now he got it with Amber.
Yeah. Well, he had it with DM before. Didn't they win?
No, they didn't win.
Oh, I thought they won the first season. Oh yeah, yeah.
CT has a team, girl partner, guy partner with Wes, and solo on Invasion. And he only has. Only, but like he has 4 rings, and he was able to cover all 4 bases. But
I don't know. I think it's hard to compare when you're comparing those two. And how many rings does CT have? 4?
Yes.
And Bananas has 7. He almost has them doubled. I think it's hard. And I know Bananas has been on more seasons and stuff. I get that. But when we talk about the challenge, he's got to be the favorite. And it's funny because, I don't want to get too ahead, but, my other moment might involve both of them. You never know. So.
Well, I got one more question for the 2 of you guys and anybody in the chat. Would just be, and I don't want to derail too much, but as we're sitting here, May 26th, 2021, does your gut tell you that Bananas will ever do another challenge or no?
I think personally, he might do one of those spinoffs like Champs vs. Stars if they ever do one of those again. I don't think he'll ever do another season again.
My heart tells me yes. My gut tells me no. I think it's no.
Yeah.
I think he rode off into this, or if he chooses to ride off in the sunset, he ends on a win. He's got, all these NBC shows. He keeps in touch with the cast. He's with Morgan. Like, what a fucking way to go out if he does go out this way.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, not much to say. Like I said, they're both whatever side you're on between. There's really 3 or 4 guys you can argue about. I just think when you think poster boy of the show, you got to go Johnny Bananas. What is Alex even wearing right now? I think that just sums it all up. I don't see a CT. And that's the thing about Bananas. He profits on anything. He's literally selling stuff of him getting embarrassed. The banana backpack, which might come up later on this episode. We'll get into that. All right, enough about my 2 picks. Those were my first 2, Battle of the X's 2 and Johnny Bananas. Andy, second pick. What do you got for us?
So my second pick, so I'm looking at everything else that's still on the table, still available. I feel pretty good about one, a couple options for the other, but there's one that I think I've got to take right now, and that's going to be my favorite season, and that's going to be Fresh Meat 2. It's God, I love it. It's just again, I've said it once, I've said it a million times. I think Fresh Meat is one of the best, if not the best, formats they've ever made. I think you had a great crop of vets and also fresh meat on this season. It was very competitive. There was a lot of drama, but it was all related to the challenge. It wasn't just like fake nonsense stuff like we see now. It was super competitive. It was alliances battling against each other, good versus evil, right versus wrong, ugly versus attractive. And guess what? Mr. Beautiful came out on top. And the classic, I should write a book, How to Take Down an Alliance by Mr. Beautiful. And then of all things that go, it's literally Kenny West the whole time. And then Landon and Carly win. It's just like there was so much to it. I think there were some there were no downsides to that season in my book. Similar to like how you were describing Battle of the X's 2. If I were to draw up what I want out of a season, Fresh Meat 2 gives it to me.
Yeah. I think one thing, I don't know if you touched on this at all, but first off, shout out to Joseph. It seems like he's a new listener, so glad to see you guys join us. We'll be here all summer, so love to see new faces. One thing that stands out to me about the season and why I love fresh meat is it's people that actually want to be on the show. It's people where you're doing tryouts, you actually want to be there. You know, I don't want to see these X's too, these people quitting. I don't want to see any of that. I want to see people out there going all out, ready to, you know, smash their head into whatever, a pole to get the job done. And I think that's what we're missing from the challenge. We're kind of losing that real world touch, and we're going more of, oh, let's get people from WWE. Let's get people from, you know,
American Idol.
Yeah, American. Who was it? Jacob Allen? Joseph
No,
Allen?
James.
Yeah. We have people like that are literally just doing it for the money, and they don't care about the show. And that breaks my heart. I mean, I want to see people out there ready to go, ready to do whatever to get the dub. And I don't think we have that anymore. So, Alex?
I fresh meat too, great season. I also I don't know how to describe it, but I like the fact that the team that won the season was Landon and Carly. Because when you think about that season, there's a few different things that come to mind. I would say as a whole, the first thing that comes to mind is Kenny and Wes. And Kenny killed that season. Not a knock on Kenny by any means, but it's like Landon is a super likable guy, a really good competitor. And the fact that like he was almost kind of able to sneak his way to the final by aligning with Wes and then getting rid of him when Kenny got rid of him. So good cast. And then, you know, you think about like Darrell and Cara going home episode 1 is just like a weird, you know, what if that doesn't happen? They could win again. Evelyn being there. I'm trying to think of who are like Teresa. Teresa almost made the final, I think, with Ryan. Pete and Jill, I think, got third place. Pete and Jill got third place. That was also in that era of the challenge, a rare 4 teams make the final season, which made it a little bit more interesting. I feel like the scenery of it too was cool, and like that log cabin. I think it was the whole season was in Canada. A very good season. You had the Wes and Kenny storyline, but even after that, even after Wes went home, you have plenty to tune in for.
Yeah, one thing I want Andy to touch on, because I know he bulges so much at it, is, and we haven't really talked about it, can we talk about the hookups that season? I mean,
incredible.
It was ridiculous. It was like love fever going around. I know there's a classic photo of Wes just, you know, with Teresa going to Kenny first and then Teresa going to Wes, and Wes is just finds out and he's just like, it's almost like a nom face. Like, you know, just
we should tweet that out.
Yeah, no, we honestly should. But Andy, if you anything else you want to touch up on Fresh Meat too?
No, I mean, that's spot on. That's what happens when you bring on attractive female competitors to the show and then bring on Mr. Beautiful. That's just what's bound to happen. Absolutely. But again, that was another positive of that season. And there was some talent on that season. Don't sleep.
Absolutely. And it brought a lot of people, you know, how many seasons did they do? I mean, you saw Teresa. You saw a lot of that Fresh Meat cast. I mean, from 1 and 2.
Laurel.
Exactly.
There's a lot.
All right. With that being said, Alex, back to you. What do you got for?
I got back-to-back picks here. I'll take my easy one first, and then I'll kind of walk you guys through my thought process on my next pick. But here I'm going to go male challenger, and I was going to go Bananas number 1. I can't complain with my number 2. It's going to be Chris Tamarello, CT. I would say either the number 1 or 2, you know, challenge face of all time, the whole franchise. I just pulled up his page here. 40 years old. He's been in. He's 6-5 in Elimination. He's won 955,000, so almost $1 million. He's made 9 finals, won 4 of them. I mean, we've already kind of touched on him already. I mean, CT, I feel like, is just a less obnoxious Bananas in the sense of like, you think about the challenge, you think about Bananas, and you think about CT, and you really can't say that for a whole lot of other people. I mean, you think TJ, but you can't say that for any other challengers, I feel like. And I feel like CT has just one of the most amazing character arcs of all time. like I'm not dissing the Bananas pick because I would have gone him, but Bananas has basically been the same guy his entire career. CT started as like a fucking, just classic Boston meathead, like getting kicked off every season. And then he literally banned from the show until they bring him back for to do a little mercenary mission on Cutthroat. And then he comes back on Rivals, and then he wins 4 rings since then. So it's like the most intimidating era, I feel like, was when he wasn't even winning challenges. And he comes back now, he's, fat. He's mumbling even more. And, I mean, the dude's just a beast. We literally saw, what was it, a month ago when we were recapping the finale? Like, he's still got it. He still has so much in the tank. And unlike Bananas, who is, a bit of a showman, he has all these shows going on, CT's got nothing going on. Like, he's going to keep doing this shit. The dude's a machine. I'm just going to go CT with my guy pick.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I figured this pick would come. I didn't know how fast it would. So how fast? But personally, you know what is slept on about CT that we all forget about? He's the only challenger to have his wedding filmed by the MTV Challenge crew. I mean, come on. I mean, it takes a lot of dedication, and I mean, how classic was it? I hate to bring it up, but that whole I think it was 2 episodes, like the whole wedding special, and how much his wife hated what was it called? Like Wes and all those guys running into the house and stuff. I mean, that is just Smirk City. And I think without a question too, the whole CT and DM thing is arguably the greatest relationship of all time. How close they were. And I mean, we literally saw, the beginning all the way up until the end. And, it was really something special to see the bond that both of them had. And, we really didn't see that close of a bond between any 2 other competitors ever. So that was really cool as well. Andy, anything you want to touch on CT?
Yeah. Oh yeah, of course. I'll add on to a little bit to what you were just going down. I think, and I don't think this is going to be taken, I'm not trying to say this out there, but I think we saw one of the best scenes ever of him and CT and DM when she takes off the wig for the first time and they have their first kiss, and it's literally like on like a cliff looking out in the ocean, like just amazing, like literally out of a movie, and we got to watch it because of those 2. I think CT tremendously helped DM with everything throughout her life. Like, she was going through some shit, and he helped her. So, like, he was a great guy. I think that helped him in the long run as well. But one thing that we haven't really talked about him that I still can't get over. I mean, when you talk about the best players of all time in, like, the NBA, you always talk – it's always MJ or LeBron. And I think, especially after this season, it's starting to become Bananas or CT. But aside from MJ and LeBron, I've still always said, and I think there's plenty of people out there, that the most dominant player in their prime was Shaquille O'Neal. Shaquille O'Neal in his prime was an absolute monster. And that's how I view CT. You view him as the best who's ever did it, or you view him as number 2 behind Bananas. I don't care where you put him. CT in his prime is not losing to anyone. I would love to see prime CT go against that Fezzy in a hall brawl, because he would literally knock him out of his shoes. Like, CT in my mind is the most dominant player that's ever done it, even if Bananas is the greatest to ever do it, if that makes sense. So I want to make sure credit gets where it's due for CT when it comes to overall competitors.
Yeah, great pick. Alex, anything else you want to touch up on CT, or do you want to head to your next pick?
No, the only last thing was not that much about CT, but as you were bringing up the fact that he had his own wedding special, that actually might make for a good Stir the Pod recap in the future. Because I feel like those 2 hours might just be complete. I remember we watched it, but like, I think there's Wes, Derek was there. Like, that would not make for a bad rewatch and recap after. But
is that on Paramount Plus? Do we know?
I feel it might be.
I'll look right now.
I feel like it's somewhere because I remember seeing it like scrolling through other challenge episodes. It might be on like MTV.com, I think.
Just there?
Yeah, it might be. But I think that could make for a hilarious recap. But no, overall, CT, I mean, I think we all kind of said it. Dude's a legend, 4 rings. He is top 2 all time. So now I'm up for round 3.
Yep.
Round 3. So my only 2 picks left are a female challenger and a season. And just looking at the board here, you guys have both picked season, so it would make no sense for me to reach here. So I think that means I gotta go female challenger, and I gotta take the first female that we've talked about tonight. And this one's tough, and I feel like this one slid not necessarily because there's bad female challengers, but I feel like you could poke holes in any of them. And I feel like that's maybe why we've sort of stayed away from them so far. So I think I've in the past, 10 minutes as we've been doing this, I've decided on who my pick is for female challenger.
The
first female off the board is going to be Cara Maria.
What?
Ooh. Oof.
I'm going Cara Maria.
Interesting.
I'm going Cara Maria because so here's where I started. I started with the overall challenge winners leaderboard and who's won the most money, and you go through some of the girls on the top, and I'm not going to mention any names that I think you guys are going to take, but like at the top of that list you see names like D and Amber B, which I don't think are going to show up on the Mount Rushmore. And so it becomes, I think, more of like who the most like physically imposing girls are, which are probably going to be either picked or honorable mentions. But I mean, Cara on the all-time leaderboards is 6th overall. There's only one other girl ahead of her. I'm not going to say her name because maybe she'll be taking. I just think when you think about Cara from 2010 to now, she's the female face of the show, and she's become in the past 2 years incredibly unlikable. But I'm just picking based on what their challenge career is, what their resume is. And Cara really, at this point, has it all. She's 13-6 in eliminations. I think that's the most by a female all time. She's won 2 seasons. She's won $602,000. She's made a few other finals. She's made 7 finals that she hasn't won. So she's won 2, and she's made 7 other finals. The last challenge she competed in and didn't make the final was Invasion. She went on a run where she made the final Dirty 30, won Vendettas, made the finals on Final Reckoning, War of the Worlds, and War of the Worlds 2. Like, she's been on a very underrated good run. She obviously has kind of been away from the show for a while. She's been I'm not acting like she's a likable character. I'm just saying female challenger, give me Cara Maria.
Yeah, the thing about her that I just don't like is, and maybe like I feel like I bring this up all the time, is recency bias. In like the past 5 seasons for her, 4 or 5 seasons, was just so bad. Like, I liked her in Free Agents and stuff with her when she broke her wrist and stuff like that. And then it might have been the Pauly effect, honestly. Everything just went downhill ever since that. I think they did 3 seasons, maybe 2 together, and she just got so annoying. And I was just a huge turnoff personally, and I was just not.
I agree.
But at the same time, I understand her accolades are unbelievable. What she did towards the back end of her career, which I hated. I mean, she made the finals year after year after year after year. Like, it's impressive, and you can't deny it. So, I mean, I like the pick. I do personally think 1 for her is a little high. I think realistically there's a group of 4 girls that stand out between everybody, and you can kind of put them in any order. I won't say names until at the end, but I think there's a list of 4 you can kind of move around and kind of we can argue, embrace debate about, and we can go from there. So, Andy, anything you want to put on this?
No, I mean, you guys have pretty much touched on all of it. I think the right word to say, though, over the past few years, and she hasn't really become unlikable. She's really become unbearable. Like I literally can't watch her.
Like Polly up Kara's ass. Wasn't that like an LVP pick?
Oh my God, she's just the absolute worst. She's the absolute worst. I can't stand her. And I used to not only like didn't mind her, I used to like her early on in the challenge. She was fun, she was funny, she was always in a good mood. And now she's just like the worst. The worst.
Yeah.
But I'm not picking on the past 2 seasons. I'm picking on her whole career. Yeah. And I feel like Kara, in good and bad ways, is another big character arc person. Because her first few seasons, she was the weird goth girl with a horse and red hair and like getting, never winning a challenge. And then she becomes from maybe Bloodline, or maybe I would say Free Agents to about War of the Worlds era, like the top, female competitor, very easy to root for because she was like this underdog story that was now winning challenges, making finals. And then, the Keebler elf came along and kind of ruined all of that. So Kara, I feel like, has been down and up and now back down. But again, I can't, there makes no sense for me to take a season right now. So I had to force a girl into this spot. So I'm going Kara.
Reasonably. Andy, what do you got? Third pick.
All right. So this is almost like very defense special teams-esque in fantasy. Once one gets taken, they all start dropping like flies. I'll go ahead and follow suit and take another female competitor. So I'm torn because, Trev, I think I'm right there with you in terms of there's a top tier. Rank them however you want. And I've always been real high on one person, but I'm picking someone different. So I'm picking a female competitor who I don't, again, like Alex said, I don't necessarily like, but she is one of the best, in my opinion, probably the best to ever do it. And I don't care who she's partnered with, even if it's Paula, Evelyn is always going to be a problem. Every time she's on the show, she runs, in my mind, the best political game of all time, including men, including that red-headed ginger guy. And she's also a physical specimen too. She kind of seemed like, I mean, literally, she went with Paula. Paula hadn't won in a decade, hasn't come close. Evelyn teams up with her, and guess what? They win. Like, that's not easy. And not only did they win, they had a phenomenal season. So, like, I mean, she's a beast. All of the girls were incredibly intimidated by her. The guys respected her. The guys wanted her to be like, she was one of the only females in the show who was actively in every like plot, every scheme, every decision. So like she had every aspect of the game covered, aside from the fact that she just sucked and she's ugly. But I mean, you can't all be good. But she's been an amazing competitor, and I'm very happy to take her with my one women's challenger pick.
Yeah, great pick. Yes, we were thinking about the same person, maybe with another E. But one thing I want to bring up, and I just want your guys' opinion of that. What did you guys think about this? I feel like this is like 8 years ago. I think the move that stands out for her is the island. And what would you, if you were in her shoes, would you do that or not? And tell me, or what would be your process? Would you, literally make a deal with the devil and do that, or what would be your mindset? Because I think that move is very gets lost in the challenge today, and I think that move easily won them that season. It wasn't even close. Like, as soon as she made that move, you could have signed the checks, ready to go. The end. Bye-bye. If you're in her spot, would you guys do that?
I would, because I feel like it was the smart challenge move where it's like you're turning on what you said in the past, but there's no time going forward to change it. Like, you do it right before the final or right before the final boat ride or whatever. Because if you backstab somebody too early, they can get you back. Like you said, like when you think about the island, I feel like people tend to think more about how Bananas backstabbed Paula, but in reality, what led to that was Evelyn having the balls to say, like, these guys have treated me shit for an entire season, but I don't care. If I join them, they don't have any chance to get me back, and we're gonna win, no questions asked. And let's get the money.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I think making that choice is an absolute no-brainer. I mean, she went from being on the outside looking in with no hope of winning to having her ticket punched. It just took swallowing a little pride and accepting that, hey, you know what, I'll do what it takes to win.
Yep. Absolutely. Any lasting remarks on Evelyn?
My only last couple things would be Evelyn's a great pick, and I think what makes it even a stronger pick is the fact that she hasn't done challenges in so long. Like, her name still carries that much weight. And just to kind of give us some optimism for the future, Ginny, who just won Total Madness a year ago, is the same exact age as Evelyn.
Wow.
Didn't Evelyn start when she was 18?
She started when she was 18, and that was, fresh meat. Yeah, fresh meat 1. And so, like, she's still, because I feel like in recent challenge seasons, the cast has been older just because they want people that have, like, an established following and all that. Like, Evelyn is the same age as Ginny, and she's 6-7 years younger than CT. So, like, if they want to bring back, if Evelyn does decide to come back at some point, I think she might be living overseas or something. There's still hope for her because they're casting older folks now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great pick.
I guess for my last pick, I'll just round out the girls so we can do just a round 3 of girls. And I gotta go. If you guys know me, I'm very biased on this girl. I think she is the greatest of all time. I think her and Paula's run in Rivals 2 is arguably the greatest duo of all time. And that's why I'm picking Emily. And I think the only knock you can, and everybody you can knock realistically, but doing only 3 seasons is not a high mark for the challenge. But going to the finals all 3 times and winning 1, and if you count the little Champs vs. Stars, winning that, I think that's impressive, even though we don't count that here. Undefeated in eliminations, never lost 5-0. So I think realistically, I think I would take her. And maybe I am biased too, because if you still follow her on Instagram and stuff, she's still in ridiculous shape. Like, she could literally come back to the challenge and run over these girls. Like, those running portions of the challenge now, it would not even be close. I think realistically, she could probably finish that final. That she could literally lap people on that final. I mean, who says no? I mean, her running, she's in great shape. I don't know. I think she's the most complete athlete that we've seen so far from a female competitor. The only knock I think you can have, like I said, is 3 seasons. I think that's tough. But
that's kind of a big knock that's a big knock in my book.
But
okay, that's fine. But 5-0 in eliminations, hasn't lost. It's hard to back that up, and especially if she has the same number of finals appearances as some of these other girls, it's pretty impressive. But yeah, that's my pick. I think she's kind of like, to me, like the best that never was, to an extent. Like, I wish we would have gotten 7-8 seasons out of her and see what she really could have gotten. But her in those 3 seasons, and I know it's a small sample size, but her in those 3 seasons is arguably better than any of the female competitors, I think, personally.
I'm mad at that.
I agree. That's fair. And I just feel like, the challenge of the past 20 years, they cast guys and girls very differently. Like, the guys that we're talking about on this, for best male challenger of all time and our honorable mentions are all going to be like no doubters. Like, you can make a case for any of them. Whereas, like, the girls all have, these weird things in their resume. Emily's is the fact that she only did 3 seasons. Her 3 seasons were awesome. So it was Cutthroat, X's,
And Rivals
and
too.
One Rivals 2.
Yeah.
Okay, and she came back for the spinoff. I think she was also very close to being on Bloodlines with her sister, and she was like dropped last minute. That would have been a deadly combo there.
I can only imagine what her sister looks like. Probably even more shred.
Sheesh.
Emily's a great pick. The most, I would say, if we're doing not necessarily best, but the most intimidating challenger, like that you do not want to see in a physical elimination. I feel like every girl on the show would vote, I don't want to go against Emily. Like she's
and like I said, I think the only knock you can have is the number of seasons. It's very similar to the whole Landon aspect. And I think Landon, arguably, if you're looking at his numbers of what he did, you could make a case him is as like the greatest challenger of all time. It's just the thing about him, and I guess you can kind of knock Emily on it too, is the whole showman factor. Like I feel like that is a part of the show, and they both, she kind of, tries to hide. I mean, yes, she's done some sketchy things in the past, but we'll just leave it at that. Andy, anything you want to put?
No, I mean we touched on a bit. Emily is bad. I mean, I want to make sure that gets established. But no, I'm right there with you. She doesn't. In my mind, she doesn't have flaws. Like I think you're right in sense that I do knock her for only being on 3 seasons, but at the end of the day, you can't that can't be a big strike against her because that could have been MTV not wanting her back because she's not that entertaining, or she did blackface at one time, or like other reasons why she wasn't getting the invite, or maybe she just had other stuff going on. Not everyone is like CT, where when he gets back from the challenge, the only thing he's waiting for is the next phone call to go on the next season. Like that's not Emily doesn't strike me as that type of person. So I think she's a great competitor. Yeah, that's my 2 cents on Emily. I think that was a great pick.
God. All right. Last round. I cannot believe I'm getting this in the list. I mean, I feel like I have to take this. I guess it's one word too, but we'll just leave it at that. I think this moment, personally,
you gotta say it for the podcast listeners.
Oh, I'm sorry. I definitely went with the banana backpack. I think it's funny because I chose Johnny Bananas, kind of said OCT's not, the greatest of all time, but it's funny now the rules are reversed. I think this moment is what made CT. Like this moment you saw CT and you're like, obviously you saw him before the punching and all, just everything. And then you see this moment and you're just like, oh shit. Like he picked up Bananas in, what was it, like 5.1 seconds and literally threw him down to the ground, threw him on the barrel, literally. And it's one of those moments that you turn and look and you're just like, oh my God, he just did that to Bananas. And not to mention now Bananas is profiting off of it by making backpacks, which is just classic him. But it's one of those moments where you look up, you literally see greatest moments between Bananas or CT. It's always included. When you look up greatest moments in challenge history, what do you always see? You see this highlight. And with that being said, I have to put it on the list. Can't believe it fell this far. Seeing some other, take the money and run's a great pick. And Kenny carrying Wes, excuse me. I don't know if I would have picked that, but I think the banana backpack by far is up there to 1 or 2. 18 seconds, Boogie Brown. Thank you. I'm surprised it was that long. Any comments on that? Let me clean that up.
I mean, the backpack is awesome. It's a great pick. And I feel like I'm obviously just very biased to Bananas taking the money and run, but the backpack in a lot of ways beats that moment. And I think what it is that casual challenge fans, like not, the diehards like us and Boogie and Jesse, like even they remember that moment. And I feel like from 2005 to 2012 or whatever, there was like we have we have a good challenge season followed by a good challenge season, but there weren't any like huge moments that stuck out besides bananas being carried like a literal backpack on CT's back. We've had, the take the money and run and a few other things since then, but I feel like there was a good 10-year stretch where you thought the challenge and you thought name something that happened and you would say the fucking backpack.
And one other thing I want to add on to what you just said there. Another reason why I love it so much is when we think of Cutthroat, that is what we think of. CT wasn't even on Cutthroat.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that he made that much of an impact on that season and he wasn't even on it shows a lot, I personally think. Andy, anything? Or, I mean, there's not much to say. I know we're kind of giving you, Bruce's leftovers. So anything else?
Yeah, well, those would actually be pretty good. I let you guys understand. No, I 35. I think you guys have hit the nail on the head. One of my favorite things about this was at the very end when CT hits bananas into his own barrel. I mean, that's just like the insult to injury, like kicking him while he's down. I mean, bananas is on his back just flailing around like, help me. And then he smashes him into his own barrel. I mean, that was just awesome. I think you're right, Trev. I think that's when Chris became CT. So I also think, and Alex had touched on this in one, you show anyone this clip, whether they like reality TV show, whether they like competition, you look at this and you're just like, wow, absolutely manhandled him. Like that's got to be one of the, like that's like Muhammad Ali taking down big opponent. I mean, he absolutely demolished him. So I loved it. It was as equal parts hilarious as it was an incredibly impressive athletic feat.
Absolutely.
Yeah. In like the bananas take the money and run, awesome moment, but there is about 3 years worth of built up storyline that you would have to understand for that to really like be impactful. Whereas like you said, CT, the backpack, you show anybody that and you see a guy literally being on the back of somebody else and you just recognize it as pure dominance. So, I mean, all-time moment.
Yeah. So with that being said, Andy, your last pick. Looks like you got a male challenger. Who are you thinking?
Now, who could I pick to round out this Mount Rushmore when I've got male challengers? And it's someone who we've kind of tickled the ball sack a bit. Without a doubt.
Oh, I know who it is. Here, I'll put it in.
Well, here, I'll shoot this down. The most attractive male to ever be on the show. He is, in my mind, we were talking about Emily being one of the best that never was. In my mind, this person was also one of the best who never was, even though he did. He came, he saw, he conquered. He was a beast for multiple seasons. He got blackballed by MTV for nothing but allegations. He was if you were to, so Steve Rogers goes into that and then he opens up and it's Captain America. If you were to put a body into a chamber and say, let's craft up the perfect person for the challenge. Let's make him good looking, athletic, funny, likes to be like stirring the pot, but also like have alliances and always out for blood. Let's add someone who's got wit and charm and can flirt with girls. Let's get the perfect prototypical person in this chamber, and it opens up. You see Kenny, Mr. Beautiful, Santucci standing right in front of you. That is my pick for male challengers. I could not say more about this guy. I mean, he was awesome. From what you can see online right now, he's still in phenomenal shape. I'm sure he would be able to cause problems today, but I bet if he was on If you Anna's, I think we would be having a different conversation for greatest of all time.
Jesse, that was good. Alex, anything you got to say about it?
I don't think we can say too much about Kenny. I mean, he was a beast in his time. One trivia question for you guys and Boogie would be, who's the only challenger to beat Kenny in an elimination?
MTV production?
Elimination.
I know. Eliminated from the show. Tanya?
Only one challenger. But, I mean, Kenny's a beast. He made 7 out of 8 finals, or 7 finals out of 8 seasons, won 3 of them. Should have won Rivals.
Go ahead. Sorry.
There it is. There it is. And the only person to beat Kenny was Nehemiah on Fresh Meat. Or no, sorry, The Duel. Trev, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, 7 out of 8 is ridiculous. I mean, I just bragged about 3 out of 3. I mean, 7 out of 8 is unbelievable. You can't really knock him for that. I think the allegations and stuff gets a slight little asterisk by him and stuff. But my biggest thing is literally just how Andy's obsessed with him. So I think that's why it just is like -5 for me right away.
He's awesome.
Yeah.
He's turning down a probably 21-year-old Teresa. He's turning her down. Kicking her to Wes. Wes is falling head over heels on the pool table and then gets his heart broken 30 minutes later. Come
on. God. Alex, last pick of the night. You're going challenge season. I think I already know what you're going with this. I think you're going to go bloodline, so I'll type it in for you right now.
Get that shit out of here.
All
so
right.
my Mr. Relevant for my challenge season is one that occurred from June 22nd to September 7th of 2011. So it was that classic, summertime right into the school year. I'm big on it. I was going to go X's 2 if I had it. If not, I'm perfectly fine with this pick. I'm going season 21, Rivals. I love Rivals. And for me personally, this hits home because I think this was the first full season that I watched like as it aired. I had seen other seasons before, like Fresh Meat, like The Duel, but this was the first one where it was like, it's on this week. I'm going to watch it. I'll watch it every week till the end. And I feel like this season was just awesome from the start. And you had a brand new format. Like, in today's world, you are used to like people, exes or rivals being together. But this was a brand new thing. It had 10 episodes, so a little bit even shorter than that era, followed by a reunion. But you had, think about some of the names that you had in the mix the whole time, making it to the final in some cases. Bananas, CT, Wes, Kenny, Nehemiah, Evan, Adam, like all of these guys. And then on the girl side, you had Evelyn and Paula finally winning. You had a young Cara, a young Laurel. You had Jen, who had been doing it forever. Camilla and Teresa were a bad team. Like, just overall, I feel like this was one where like you tuned in week to week and you got good TV. You had the whole house going for CT. They finally, got him out by the fucking T-bone, which ended up becoming another very popular type of elimination. I've just been a big fan of this challenge. And you also, like, from the beginning, you never thought that Bananas and Tyler were going to win just because they were always sort of second fiddle. You thought it was probably either going to be CT and Adam because they were the top dog according to the rest of the house, or Wes and Kenny because they were 2 of the strongest 3 guys in the house. And it ended up being Bananas and Tyler, a great team. But this was kind of before Bananas became the Bananas that we know today. So you weren't looking at him as a number 1. But I just love this season. So my last pick, I'm going Rivals.
Yeah, I think this season to me is kind of special. And some of you guys know the story of finishing it all in one day, skipping school and literally watching it. But personally, I think this season had some of the best eliminations too. Mikey the Doctor writes Leroy and Mike as my favorite team. I don't know about that. I think that would be Andy's favorite team.
Yeah, don't hate on Leroy and Mike. That team was one of the most smirk-worthy teams of all time.
I'm giving you your respect. That was Andy's.
Just
throwing that out there. But yeah, I mean, great season. I think I like Rivals 2 better. What the fuck? But yeah, I mean, not much to say. I think it's a great season. Andy, anything you gotta say?
Yeah, I mean, Jesse Adams hit the nail on the head. Trevor is Mike. Mike is Trevor. That's just spot on. I think we might have had the most attractive team of all time in Rivals in Jen and Mandy. Was that Rivals 1 or 2, though? Keep me honest.
That was one.
That's what I thought.
It was an attractive cast.
Oh, my God. But that duo, sheesh. Sign me up. Sign me up, Tej.
Rivals was the first one of the format, first one that really introduced the 2-day, like, tough, long final. It used to be, a short, just another challenge. And Trevor, did you? I mean, it was, I love Rivals. It was awesome.
Another thing I liked about Rivals as well is I think one of the things that used to be one of my favorite parts of every season was, and they still do it to an extent now, but the opening scene where they're standing in the elimination room and no one has what's going on. Everyone's excited but nervous, and then out comes TJ and everyone erupts. That's just awesome. But Rivals had such a great twist because no one knew this was coming. And when you have after Rivals 1, when Rivals 2 comes around, and you can start as a challenger, start thinking, okay, there's a lot of people who hate each other. This could be Rivals again. This was the first time that happened. And this was the first absolute bomb that dropped in terms of Kenny thinking, wait, I have to get paired up with this gremlin and literally carry him up a mountain if I want to win. That would have been, and we saw it happen. Those reactions, hilarious. Very Paula when she gets matched up with, it might have been Rivals 2, but when she gets matched up with either Evelyn or Emily, and she's like, oh, I'm so excited, I'm going to win. 2 seconds later, she's like, oh, yeah, then I realized I hated her. I mean, that's just awesome.
I just want to clarify, I know Andy's fucked this up in the past. I just want to clarify. I just want to put Rivals 1. I just don't want Alex to round out, all the Rivals with the seasons.
Just the one.
Yeah, just Rivals 1. I just wanted to clarify. Don't want to go down the Hall Brawl era again, where you just round up all of them.
I think it was also the first season to do a location change.
I think it is too.
Which ended up becoming a staple in that era that they kind of gotten away from. But it was always a good, thing to watch, the cast reaction, oh, we're going to Argentina. They always say the name of a city, and they're like, I don't know where that is. And
Lionel Messi International. It's pretty good. All right. Well, that was our Mount Rushmore.
I heard that airport had 4 stars.
God. It was right next to Diego Maradona International. But I heard there was some snowfall there last week. I think this was our Mount Rushmore. We had one moment, one men's challenger, one women's challenger, and then one of our favorite challenge seasons as well. Chat right now. Please discuss what did we miss? Who did we leave off that you guys are pissed about? The first honorable mention I want to bring up, because I think it's the tightest, is for the women's challengers. And I think there's 4 girls that stand out to me, and I think we hit 3 of them, obviously. Cara, Evelyn, Emily. And I think that 4th one we have to bring up is Laurel. And I think Laurel is one of those competitors. I believe she started her career off 9-0. I could be wrong on that. But I think she's one of those competitors. You see her in elimination, and it's one of those mental games where you're just fuck, I'm going against Laurel. I don't know what I signed up for. And why I like her so much too, her going against Cara Maria, she manhandled her. Like, it wasn't even close. Yes, she had a broken wrist and stuff like that. I think she's up there. I'm very biased on Emily, so that's why I definitely went with her. But we got to talk about Laurel and how she's one of the greatest of all time too.
Definitely agree. I've always been a big Laurel fan. But if I would have gone Laurel as well, then I would have had Kenny carrying West, Fresh Meat 2, and then Kenny and Laurel. I mean, I had to mix it up a little bit. But Laurel is awesome. She's awesome.
Yeah. Alex, anything on this?
No, Laurel is the first honorable mention, I think, for the girls. She's very similar to Emily in terms of resume. And she did her first 3 seasons in a row and has kind of taken a break before each appearance after that, which would lead me to believe that she might be coming back soon. So, unlike Emily, I don't think we've seen the last of Laurel.
Oh, interesting. Other honorable mentions. I have a moment. There's actually 2. Andy kind of hinted at it earlier. I think the whole Diem and CT, that kiss, very iconic moment in challenge history. The other one, I think this is just classic, and it's just smirk-worthy, and it's got to be from Ruins, the good old boob pop, boob gate. I think that moment, Siobhan, I mean,
Deflategate.
It literally was Deflategate. I think that moment when you saw that, I believe someone's got to correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe Tej said, "Sorry about your titty." I think that was his exact words when he saw something like that. Something so classic, smirk-worthy. I think that's a moment that stands out for me that, like, I just didn't think it was possible. I was just like, well, I was dying laughing when I first saw that. And obviously the cast was too. And that cast, another great season too, to lead into that. I love Ruins. I love the whole West versus the world dynamic, throwing challenges in the beginning. And I guess if we want to knock on Evelyn, her throwing that challenge, I thought you don't like quitters, Andy.
I don't like quitters.
Did she quit that season?
I'll just end it.
I'll drop the mic on that one, but I'll end it up. Jesse Adams writes, "What about Susie?"
Uzi?
I think Susie's better from her podcast game. Brain Candy, isn't that what it's called? Some of the moments that I'm seeing in the chat right now are eliminations, and even like Derek versus Ross. I know that's a hell of elimination. I mean, both those guys went full at it. I don't know if I would count that as one of the greatest moments, though. Maybe greatest eliminations of all time, but not moments. Andy, I'm sorry for interrupting you there. What were you gonna say?
Well, I was gonna just touch on female competitors one more time because I had one more honorable mention in my list.
Coral?
I've always been a big Sarah Rice fan.
Oh my god!
I know, sue me, but she just, the reason I like Sarah is because she embodies what I want out of a challenger. I want someone who wants to be there so badly. And that's, who has that these days? And we've talked about it, who was just on the show this past season.
Big T.
Big T. I genuinely like watching people who don't care about the fame or don't care about like becoming famous or like even winning money. Like Sarah and Big T don't care about winning money. They just want to go out there and try to win and have a good time. And like Sarah was good and she was really good at puzzles. Allegedly. I'm throwing that in there. But
who did she lose to? I forget.
God, Jasmine John A.
Yeah.
But she was also with Biddlestein or whatever his name is. I mean, she was awesome. And I think at one point in time, she was one of the best female competitors like that was actively doing challenges. So, yeah, I want to throw her out there as honorable mention, but I'm glad that none of us took her in the draft.
Yeah. Andy, would you like to say anything about Mikey the Doctor's last comment? I know you were a big fan of it.
I cannot believe Mikey the Doctor said that because my last honorable mention
God.
Anissa Pig.
Wow.
That I can't tell you how many times I've watched that scene. That is just it and I think that like going back to like the Derek versus Josh and Josh and Derek versus Wes, those were great eliminations. But the fact that you can mention two very similar eliminations in the same breath like that, like Derek and Josh, great elimination. Derek and Wes, great elimination, but it was still just both of them were two guys going all out in a physical elimination. Like, yeah, it's awesome, but it happens a lot. Very rarely do you get to see somebody move 3 feet when they're supposed to be going like 40 yards down and back. And she's literally hanging there like a pig on a hog roast. By the time, I mean, Big T lapped her. Big T was running circles around her. And she's just still sitting there like a pig. And then the word on the street is production had to come over and just chop her up. And she fell all the way down. That's what the people are saying.
All right. On that note, Alex.
Well, no, Trev. Last final thoughts. That's where it becomes not just one of the best eliminations, but it becomes one of the best moments because nothing like that has ever happened, and I pray to God nothing like that ever does again. But it was literally like watching history when we were watching that.
God. Alex, what do you got? Honorable mentions.
Honorable mentions. I was thinking about seasons just because that's what I had last on my list. The only other one I could think, or the only, I guess, two that were in consideration would be Free Agents and Rivals 2. I just picked the one that was my personal favorite, Rivals 1. With guy challengers, I would say the two that I think would have gotten picked if we had more people on the pod. Listeners, we're bringing you on soon. I would say maybe Darrell and Wes. Like those two guys have great challenge resumes. But those are kind of my only big honorable mentions that I had. I don't know, Trev, what you had planned to kind of close us out, but maybe before, especially since you're last on the list, left to right here, if we just want to read off our Mount Rushmores and then you can close us out there at the end.
Yeah. Do you just want me to read them all or just my picks?
Well, I can do mine. Andy can do his, and then.
All right. So Trev's picks. I picked Battle of the X's 2 for my greatest season, greatest male challenger, Johnny Bananas, greatest female challenger, Emily, and the greatest moment of all time moments is the banana backpack. Andy.
So I've got best moment, Kenny carrying Wes up a mountain in the finals of Rivals 1. My challenge season is Fresh Meat 2. My women's challenger is Evelyn. And my male challenger is Kenny, Mr. Beautiful Santucci.
Alex?
My Mount Rushmore, the challenge, my first number 1 overall pick for moment was Bananas taking the money and run. Male challenger, I went with CT. Female challenger, Cara Maria. And Mr. Irrelevant, last pick of the draft, best challenge season, I went with Rivals 1.
Yeah. So thank you guys for joining us on our season 2, episode 1 off-season Mount Rushmore series. I don't even know. We got to come up with a name. We're still in the production mode of it. But thank you guys. We don't know the next time we'll be back. What are we thinking? 2 weeks? Next week off, and then we'll be back on. We'll get back to you guys and see. But seriously, guys, thank you guys.
You guys let us know. Do you want to see us do like an every other week Mount Rushmore or do some of the other Legends tours? We want to do what you guys want us to. So the frequency is kind of up for debate, but let us know what you guys want us to do, and we'll pump it out. We don't quit on you.
And if you guys watching or listening have any interest in joining us, especially for something like a Mount Rushmore, DM us right away at Stir the Pod, and we'll get you on here. We'll include you in the snake draft. That's what we're looking for to do in the off season.
Yeah, the more people, the better, because it gets more competitive. The picks start dwindling, and it's out of control. It's all off the rails, literally.
I think Derek and that Scott guy charge like $15 a month to even listen to their content. We don't charge a penny. We're never going to, and we want to bring you guys on the show with us. So, which show is better?
Again, thank you guys. Mikey the Doctor, Jesse Adams, Boogie, Duffy on the chat. There's a few other faces. I forget who they were. I'm forgetting.
Couple new faces. Great to see new faces. Great to see new faces.
Joseph UIG. Hopefully he's not Joseph Allen. We'll just leave it there. But thank you guys for listening to a brand new Stir the Pod podcast show. I've been your host, Trevor. You can follow us on Twitter at Stir the Pod. Thank you guys. Love you guys. Shout out Duffy. Bye-bye.
Love you guys.